Hello, this is Mary Ellen. For the next half hour, I'll be reading from the November the 27th issue of the River Rock Times and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Page 1. The Buffalo Maritime Center celebrates a successful Seneca Chief voyage. The article is written by Amber Healy. The journey lasted 33 days, visiting every set of locks and each town between Buffalo and New York City. But for the Buffalo Maritime Center, the bicentennial celebration of the Erie Canal was an event more than a decade in the making. This project has been going on for a very long time, reflected Roger Allen, the master boat builder for the Buffalo Maritime Center. It was 12 years ago that he first started talking with John Montague, the founder and director emeritus of the center, about a grand vision: to build a perfect replica of the Seneca Chief, the first boat to navigate the Erie Canal when it opened in 1825. On Thursday evening, November the 20th, the staff of the Buffalo Maritime Center spoke to a standing room-only crowd of supporters and volunteers at the Ukrainian American Civic Center on Military Road, reflecting on the culmination of their joyful adventure. Thinking back on the morning of September the 24th, when the crew of the Seneca Chief left Buffalo to begin the 33-day journey to New York City, Allen said he was awed by the moment. Standing in the harbor on the day we actually left was like one of those moments where, "We did this," he said. "We actually did this." And the funny thing is, I was standing over here when everybody started coming in the room, and I'm looking at all the faces I see here, and I have to tell you, I miss you all. We worked so close together during the building process for a long time, and it was a lot of pressure. We had a lot of deadlines. We did an amazing, amazing thing. As the ship left, he admitted he teared up. "I've been crying so far twice already tonight. It was an astonishing experience." The journey of a lifetime. Eddie Niblo, the Chief's exhibits and collection manager, agreed, saying it was an emotional thing to experience, but it didn't hit him quite as suddenly as they prepared for departure. The moment when we were leaving at first, we've done so many sea trials leading up to the voyage, taking the boat out, getting people experience, then understanding what the systems are to use the boat and move the boat. At first I was like, "Oh well, this is a bit easier than we normally meet and leave," he said. Then we got on the boat and the boat started moving, and it was like, "Oh, we're not coming back to Buffalo for quite a while." During the month-long trip, the crew slept on the Seneca Chief, which made for some quick work when it was time to open the boat for visitors each day, said Brian Zekiak, the center's executive director. In giving an overview of a typical day aboard the Seneca Chief, he recounted the ordeal that would transpire when someone needed to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, having to leave the boat and make their way to the nearest restroom. You either go about 100 feet or a quarter of a mile to a mile and a half to find the bathroom, depending on what stop you're at, he said, earning laughs from the friendly crowd. The day began in earnest around 6:30 a.m. with breakfast prepared by Chelsea Moore, the center's educational director, and her father Doug, on a trailer that accompanied the boat on the trip. They'd return to the boat for a crew meeting and a safety briefing until a little after 9 a.m. As we start going, we would take a break if it's a long day, about 3 hours into the trip, where we would stop for about half an hour and then get back on the boat. Then we get into port. At that point, it was time to prepare for visitors, which meant quickly ducking away any evidence that the crew was sleeping on the Seneca Chief. In about 15 minutes, the boat looks pristine, like it was an exhibit, and it is. Then we start doing the welcome ceremony, greeting local dignitaries and exchanging comments about the importance of the trip. By this time, people were anxious to see the boat. A daily rush of visitors who would greet and talk with every member of the staff as they toured the Seneca Chief, lasting until the early evening. Dinner wouldn't happen until around 8 o'clock or so, followed by socializing with their host partners in each town, despite their eyes starting to droop from being tired. Sometimes we would go to a talk afterward, and the next thing you know, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we're like, hey, let's go get a beer, right? Because why not, Zick Yat said. The crew would go out for a nightcap, return to the boat around 11:30 p.m., then remember they had to count the donations of cash left by visitors in the box during each stop. By 11:45, the day was essentially over with lights out around midnight, and the next thing you know, they've got to go to the bathroom at 2 or 3 in the morning, he laughed. Believe in Black Rock holiday party is December the 3rd. It would be tomorrow. The Believe in Black Rock's holiday party will be held on Wednesday, December 3rd at Turning Bridge Tavern from 6 to 9 p.m. There will be no Believe in Black Rock meeting on its regular first Monday. Turning Bridge Tavern, 1797 Niagara Street, the corner of Bridge Street, is 1 block south of Amherst, right across from the Unity Island Turning Bridge. It will be free admission and open to the public. The party will be potluck with food and non-alcohol beverages to share. Please consider bringing a dish or dessert. Beer or other spirits may be purchased at the bar. The tavern is usually only open Thursday to Saturday. But the owners, Joe and Maureen, are opening their doors for the family-friendly holiday party. Insight into I Love My City. It was a full house at Black Rock Arts on Saturday as photographer Rachel Sneekloff spoke about her new exhibit, I Love My City. More than 20 people gathered around the small gallery to hear how the project started during COVID unintentionally, as she and other teachers from Elmwood Village Charter School drove to visit their students shortly after schools closed due to the pandemic. Eventually, Sneekloff began biking around Buffalo's West Side and other neighborhoods, approaching people and asking if she could take their photo. The exhibit, filled with faces of everyday people, is up at Black Rock Arts on Saturday, noon until 4 p.m. through December the 20th. Making the Dream of Owning a Home More Attainable by Amber Healy. Within the next year, dozens of city-owned lots in Buffalo will be the location of brand new single-family homes sold to qualified first-time homebuyers in locations where properties have been vacant for years. The new house is at 18 Calumet Place in Black Rock and was the first one completed and features 2 bedrooms, a full bathroom, stacked washer and dryer, and an attic upstairs, a full kitchen with energy-efficient appliances, a utility closet, living room, half bathroom, and coat closet downstairs, with an air conditioning unit in each room and individual room thermostats. The other homes, designed by HHL Architecture and built by Buffalo Construction Consultants, are either now completed or will be by the end of 2026, with a total of 47 new homes throughout Buffalo and 5 new homes in Cheektowaga. In addition to the house at 18 Calumet, the other houses, either finished or under construction in Black Rock and Riverside, will be located at 111 Austin, 362 East, 92 Gorton, 57 Hoffman, 153 Thompson, and 248 Laird. Anyone interested in touring the new homes is invited to visit the properties on Calumet, East, Gorton, Thompson, and Laird between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday, December the 6th. More information on the open houses can be found at their email address, https://benlic.org. Some of the homes will be stick-built, meaning they'll be framed and constructed on the lot, while others will be modular or built at another location and installed on a prepared lot, explains Benjamin Brown, a project manager for the Buffalo Erie Niagara Land Improvement Corporation, BENLIC, BENLIC. By taking empty city-owned lots and using them to add to the housing supply in Buffalo, Brown says it's a process not unlike filling in missing teeth in order to provide a brighter, fuller smile. Each house represents new neighbors in an existing community, additional money in the local tax base, and the opportunities that come with home ownership. Buffalo's existing housing stock is among the oldest in the country, without any major infill development taking place for several decades. The ability to work quickly to build homes and bring in new homeowners is possible in part because of a contribution of $1 million from Empire State Development's County Infrastructure Grant Program, which paid for the installation of utility hookups on all lots. Additional funding for the project came in the form of $13.5 million in American Rescue Plan funding dedicated to the construction of single-family homes in Erie County, announced by County Executive Mark Poloncarz in his 2023 State of the County address, and $10 million in ARPA funding from Acting Mayor Chris Scanlon, plus another $1 million toward the joint program for a total of $24.5 million. Ben Lick first got involved in October 2023, Brown says, adding that it's an effort he's thrilled to be working on. I always refer to Buffalo as a once built city. It was built to accommodate a growing new economy, and then it didn't get the second act a lot of other cities might have, he said. Adding new homes in existing neighborhoods helps improve the health and strength of communities that might have previously seen blighted properties or watched the property values of existing homes diminish. Erie County, the City of Buffalo, and all partner organizations have a deadline of December 2026 to have the project substantially completed, Brown says. We still have another year and we're at 50% completion. Technically, we've already met that deadline from the standpoint of requirements from the federally provided ARPA funds. The homes will be similar in size and shape, with a few differences between communities and the option of a 2 or 3 bedroom model. None of the homes will have driveways due to the narrow nature of the lots, all of which previously did have houses built on them that were subsequently torn down or otherwise destroyed. A lack of driveways is a concern raised by some neighbors in Black Rock, as parking is already scarce and street parking makes it difficult for the city to plow and salt streets when the snow falls. But Brown says that while he understands the concerns, it's just like having a long vacant house suddenly occupied by new tenants. Neighbors will adjust in time, and eventually new patterns and practices will emerge. I think you can expect some form of concern, but we haven't had outright protests over improving and promoting homeownership, he said. But it's only natural when you're used to having that space for a period of time. We know it's a big, drastic change when you put a house in that space again. The homes will be purchased through a lottery system. Once the new homes are built, they need homeowners. That's where Belmont Housing comes in. There are currently about 200 applications submitted from interested potential home buyers, but with only 52 homes being constructed through this effort, not everyone will be successful. This is a huge endeavor to have this many houses being built in a year, and it's pretty exciting that finally the city and the county are putting money into home ownership. Opportunities that are so desperately needed right now. We have more buyers than we have homes, says Sandra Becker, a senior housing program manager with Belmont Housing Resources for Western New York, Incorporated. Among the factors that will be used to select the applications for the lottery that will be used to identify future homemakers, Becker says an applicant's credit history, income, mortgage qualifications, and other factors will be considered. It does get whittled down pretty quickly, as you have to identify who can actually purchase the homes, which will have a cost of around $250,000 for the homes built in the city of Buffalo. The income qualification is 300% of the poverty level, and the homes are priced so that someone at that income limit would still be able to qualify for the home, Becker says, which works out to a household income of about $50,000 annually. for the homes in Black Rock and Riverside. The deadline to submit applications is December the 19th, with the first lottery winners to be drawn on December 29th. It's recommended that anyone applying for the lottery work with a lender to pre-qualify for their mortgage to keep the process moving quickly if their entry is drawn, Becker says. Applicants also must get pre-approval from a lender for the full price of the home. Getting that approval will likely mean providing some pay stubs and proof of income to their lender of choice. We have our HUD-certified housing counselor that will go over the payments and the accountability one-on-one with the people who are interested. All that information has to be in by December 19th, Becker says. The December the 29th lottery will take place online on Belmont's website for people to watch in real time. Applicants will have the ability to say whether they're interested in a house in Buffalo or Cheektowaga. Becker and Brown confirmed, and separate lotteries will take place for each municipality. Another thing worth mentioning, maybe some people are thinking they're not ready right now, but they might be ready in 6 months. We're going to be doing these lotteries about every 3 or 4 months over the next year as the rest of the homes are built, Becker says. Belmont also has counselors available to help people with their electronic applications, so people who don't feel tech-savvy can still participate in the lottery. But Belmont's support isn't limited to just the home bank process. There are credit counselors available to go over financial literacy and education, and should something unfortunate happen and a new homeowner through this endeavor find themselves facing financial hardship, those counselors will work with the lender to try and create payment options to keep the homeowners in their houses, Becker says. We're the largest HUD counseling agency in Western New York, and we have 3 full-time foreclosure counselors who work with us. It's one of our biggest programs. More information on the program, floor plans of the houses, and the qualifications for home ownership can be found at https://www.belmonthousingwny.org/ARPA. You're listening to articles from the River Rock Times, November 27th edition on Radio Reading Service. Fall Festivals 2025. The article is written by John Duke. Fall traditions around Western New York usually begin with the Buffalo Bills sacrificing NFL games to other cities to start the season. But this year, things are a little different. Disney didn't allow The Great Pumpkin to be seen by little children, and the Charlie Brown Christmas specials will not be shown on the Grinch TV channels that absolutely don't want the little children getting in a holiday mood. But much to their chagrin, Ray Romano showed a 30-year anniversary special Monday night. Also, Hallmark showed off Buffalo in a brilliant holiday movie on Sunday. It'll be shown often on local TV. And the Great American Family Channel has many new Christmas 2025 movies. And remember, the only local television channel, METV, has all the Christmas programming from years ago. Phil Arno somehow managed to sneak in a Charlie Brown special from 1969 on Sunday night. But if you like the Everybody Loves Raymond Thanksgiving specials every year, the most historic comedy is when Ray played the role of Squanto in a family play. Harvest Festival observed by the Pilgrims of Plymouth. The Plymouth colonists, today known as Pilgrims, had settled in a part of eastern Massachusetts formerly occupied by the Patuxent Indians, who had died in a devastating epidemic between 1614 and 1620. After the harsh winter of 1620 to 1621 killed half of the Plymouth colonists, 2 native intermediaries, Samoset and Tisquantum, known as Squanto, and the last living member of the Patuxet, came in at the request of Massasoit, leader of the Wampanoags, to negotiate a peace treaty and establish trade relations with the colonists. Massasoit had hoped to establish a mutual protection alliance between the Wampanoag, themselves greatly weakened by the same plague that extirpated the Patuxet, and the better-armed English in their long-running rivalry with the Narragansett, who had largely been spared from the epidemic. The Wampanoag reasoned that given that the Pilgrims had brought women and children, they had not arrived to wage war against them. Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to catch eel and grow corn and served as an interpreter for them until he too succumbed to disease a year later. The Wampanoag leader, Massasoit, also gave food to the colonists when supplies brought from England proved insufficient. Having brought in a good harvest, the Pilgrims celebrated at Plymouth for 3 days in the autumn of 1621. The Pilgrim Feast was cooked by the 4 adult Pilgrim women who survived their first winter in the New World: Elizabeth Hopkins, Mary Brewster, and Susanna White. Among descendants, the harvest feast was originally set up for the Pilgrims alone. Wampanoag were invited for their help in teaching the Pilgrims their agricultural techniques. Part of the harvest celebration involved a demonstration of arms by the colonists, and the Wampanoag, having entered into a mutual protection agreement with the colonists and likely mistaking the celebratory gunfire for an attack by a common enemy, arrived fully armed. The Wampanoag were welcome to join the celebration, as their farming and hunting techniques had produced much of the bounty for the Pilgrims and contributed their own foods to the meal. Most modern imagings of the celebratory provoke the idea that every party involved ate solely turkey. However, while the celebrants might well have feasted on wild turkey, the local diet also included fish, shellfish, and a Wampanoag dish called nasaump, which the Pilgrims had adopted. It's boiled cornmeal mixed with vegetables and meats. There were no potatoes, an indigenous South American food not yet introduced into the global food system, and no pies because there was no butter, wheat, flour, or sugar. 2 colonists gave personal accounts of the 1621 feast in Plymouth. William Bradford of the Plymouth Plantation wrote, "They began now to gather in the small harvest they had, and to fit up their houses and dwellings against winter, being all well recovered in health and strength, and had all things in good plenty. For as some were thus employed in affairs abroad, others were exercised in fishing, about cod and bass and other fish, of which they took good store, of which every family had their portion. All the summer there was no want, and now began to come in store of fowl, as winter approached, of which this place did abound when they can be used, but afterward decreased by degrees. And besides waterfowl, there was a great store of wild turkeys, of which they took many, besides venison, etc. Besides, they had about a peck a meal a week to a person, or now since harvest Indian corn to the proportion was added, which made many afterward write so largely of their plenty here to their friends in England, which were not feigned but true reports." Edward Winslow in Mort's Relatino wrote, "Our harvest being gotten in, our governor sent 4 men on fowling, that so we might have a special manner rejoice together after we had gathered the fruits of our labor. They 4 in one day killed as many fowl as with a little help beside served the company almost a week, at which time amongst other recreations we exercised our arms, many of the Indians coming amongst us, and among the rest their greatest king Massasoit, with some 90 men, whom for 3 days we entertained and feasted, and they went out and killed 5 deer, which we brought to the plantation and bestowed on our governor and upon the captain and others. And although it was not always so plentiful as it was at this time with us, yet by the goodness of God we are so far from want that we often wish you partakers of our plenty. Happy Thanksgiving to all Black Rock and Riverside Pilgrims, and remember to look in on the elderly all year round. Gobble, gobble, gobble." Quinn Minute Shopping Thoughts for Easy Early Season Buyers by Rick Quinn. If you're like me, your mailbox is now bulging with holiday gift catalogs. Yesterday, I even got a catalog showing other catalogs I could order. Many families consider the dog to be part of the family. What do I buy Rover is a common question, especially if Rover is a cousin. The answer is simple. Dogs don't keep calendars, so they don't know holidays from squat. Of course, always select non-toxic toys. Sometimes the dog will eat one and it's days before you can find and disinfect it. My history books say that the first Thanksgiving, turkey was skewered on a long solid rod called a spit. I'm a vegetarian. I never cook my vegetables that way, and I never spit on them. I often have trouble shopping for relatives who show up only occasionally. Each year for the last decade, Uncle Ken has arrived on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and he has stayed in our guest room. He eats a lot, but he doesn't bring any food. He never remembers anybody's name. So last week I asked my wife not to invite her Uncle Ken again. "My uncle," she replied. "I thought he was your uncle." Finally, activity books make a great gift. Even toddlers can spend hours with crayons if they've got pictures or furniture to color. Whatever you buy, remember it's better to give than receive. Last year, I gave holiday visitors a cold. D-District Blotter, compiled by Roxy Harbison for the week of November 27th. As all persons accused of a crime, the defendant's presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. On November the 17th, the defendant, a 32-year-old Riverside woman, did follow the complainant while he was walking home from the store on Glore Street. The defendant did display a 12-inch hunting knife and stated, "I'm going to kill you." Defendant did cause complainant to fear for his safety. Same woman, same complainant. Defendant, a 32-year-old Riverside woman, did follow the complainant on Glore while making threats to kill him. She did display a metal fence spike and threatened complainant with it. Spike was recovered by an officer in the alley before houses on Glore Street. Complainant reports that the defendant, The defendant, a 59-year-old man, no permanent address, stole $464.49 worth of merchandise from the large grocer at Amherst and Grant. While attempting to stop the defendant, the complainant was punched and spat on repeatedly by the defendant. Upon officers' arrival, the defendant also punched an officer in the face. Stolen items returned to the store. Defendant, a 29-year-old Cheektowaga, New York man, was found in Unity Island after dark. Defendant did state to officers that the black backpack in the vehicle was his. What appeared to be approximately 5 grams of cocaine was found in the black backpack while vehicle was inventoried. City ordinance issued, vehicle impounded. On November the 16th, at approximately 12:30 a.m., the defendant, a 39-year-old Buffalo woman, admits she did drive her vehicle, a black 2021 Mitsubishi Outlander, while occupied by herself and 6 juvenile children, and she did stop her vehicle in the vicinity of Lincoln Parkway while under her care, custody, and control. The defendant failed to exercise reasonable diligence in the control of the juveniles and acted in a manner likely to be injurious to the mental, physical, and moral welfare of these juveniles when she allowed the juveniles to wander from her vehicle at 12:25 a.m., and while out of the vehicle, they did damage and destroy property, including windows and furniture, at the Terrace restaurant on Lincoln Parkway. By committing crimes that caused damage in excess of $1,500, which the defendant was aware of a pattern of criminal behavior of the juveniles, she willfully created a scenario for the juveniles to continue this behavior. There is video footage 2 defendants from Buffalo, 11-year-old female daughter and a 10-year-old female daughter. 2 more defendants from Buffalo, 14-year-old female niece and a 14-year-old female niece, 2 from Riverside. There's from the D District Blotter, compiled by...
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day on the Niagara Friends